My name is Janelle Riley, and I'm so thrilled to welcome you to this Q&A with Lily Tomlin. This is a true living legend. She received her first Oscar nomination for her role in Robert Altman's Nashville 40 years ago. And since then, I mean, you want to talk about range. She has gone on to deliver remarkable performances in everything from All of Me, 9 to 5, and Shortcuts, and on the small screen in The West Wing and her current series, Grace and Frankie. She is a Grammy winner, a Tony winner, a 7-time Emmy winner, and it is no small accomplishment to say that she delivers one of the best performances of her career in Grandma. Please welcome Lily Tomlin. For being here.
Happy to be here.
No, because I literally don't have time to list all of your accomplishments. Something I didn't mention in the intro was that a couple weeks ago you were nominated for a Golden Globe Award. Not one, but two. One for Grace and Frankie and one for Grandma.
Right.
You're covering all the mediums. How did you get the news? And I mean, is it still surprising at this point in your career?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it always is, because you never really know what's going to happen, and you just kind of go with it. And so it was good. It was good because of the projects I'm in, because it means everybody who's on the show is sort of invested in it, and so they're glad for you too.
How did you find out? Because I remember when you got nominated for the Emmy, you didn't know.
No, I didn't. I didn't know. They gave me the Kennedy honor last December, a year ago, and I didn't realize that and I didn't realize that they wanted to honor me, and the letter lay on my desk for like about 10 days. And Jane, my partner, finally called me and she said, "Did you see that letter from George Stevens?" And I said, "Yeah, he just wants us to, he's inviting us to come to the honors this year if we want to." And she says, "No, they want to honor you." And I said, "No, they don't." I'm crazy. And anyway, that's all. So.
If I had a Kennedy Center honor, I would wear it everywhere.
I bet you wouldn't.
I mean, do you ever just take it out and try it on around home, or?
Occasionally I wear it to Ralph's.
I bet they let you sneak in the express lane.
Yeah.
10 items or no.
Right.
So it was like a day before you found out about your Emmy nomination, wasn't it?
Yeah. How come I didn't know about that?
You tell me.
I don't.
Was your phone off or something?
What?
I feel like maybe your phone was off.
Well, it probably was. I try to avoid it as much as possible, but I don't remember. I think someone who works in my office. What day did they announce it?
Tuesday.
Monday, Tuesday,
Yeah.
Wednesday. And so then Paul, who works with me, he came in the office and he said, he was all expectant, big smiles, and he said, "Hey, isn't that great?" And I said, "What?" He said, "You got nominated for an Emmy." I said, "Oh, good." The first words I said was, "Jane nominated too?" Jane Fonda, because we're absolutely a pair.
Yeah.
And without Gracie, there's no Frankie. So I was kind of disappointed in that, but so we've got a second season and we've got a third season, so. Because it's hard, anyway, I very much would like to get nominated with her.
Yeah.
That would be really cool.
So were you prepared the morning of the Golden Globes? Did you know that, this could happen, or was it another situation where?
I don't want to sound like I'm so blasé, because I'm not blasé, but I don't like to get caught up in it's so competitive, and then you kind of, and if I hadn't been nominated, I would have been disappointed. And that's just the way of it. But in a certain way, not being nominated, you're kind of relieved because you don't have to get a dress. You don't have to have a handbag. You don't have to face, your neighbor's ridicule. What was she thinking? It's really rough. It's a lot rougher than you think it is.
And when you're a double nominee, I mean, geez, 2 dresses.
Pressure's really on. 2 outfits, that's right. And I've got them, but I'm going to have to change in the audience. I tried to talk them into leaving enough space between the 2 so that I could get up and go out into the ladies' room, with the other people in there changing their costume, like Helen Mirren. Who else? There's other people that got 2 nominations.
I think I know Amy Schumer is nominated as a producer of Trainwreck.
Oh, no, that doesn't count. You have 2 different categories. So Helen Mirren.
I think it's you 2.
Just me and Helen?
I think that's good company to be in.
We're liable to get into a fist fight in the ladies' room. Maybe I'll wear her outfit and she'll wear mine. She can wear the outfit I wear for the first category, and I'll wear what she wears. That would be a good lesson for America and over consumerism.
Working together like that.
It would indeed, although I don't know if she really stands up to her British passport anymore. Isn't she a little bit kind of inclined to America?
I think we can claim her at this point. She's got an American husband.
Don't let her know I said that. She'll probably take umbrage.
Yeah. You don't want to mess with Helen Mirren. So,
well, you don't if you saw that movie with Cuban,
Red?
What?
Red?
No, not Red. Was she in that?
Yeah!
You mean Warren Beatty's movie?
No.
It's Red singular.
Yeah.
No, I was thinking of the one with Cuban Gooding, where they were crooks.
Oh.
And then she was dying of a disease, and she made love with him a lot, and she wanted to
Nobody
shoot
saw that
her brains
movie.
out.
You saw that movie
During orgasm.
Shadowboxer. You haven't
She
seen
hasn't talked
Red?
about that much either. I actually like that movie very much. I don't know why. I was so attracted to it.
I like it too. It's just no one ever mentions that movie, including the people in it. So I'm sure you've seen it.
Oh, goodness.
And not seen Red. Red is really good, actually.
Oh, I will, darn it. I didn't even know it had come and gone.
And a sequel, too.
Oh, there is? What's that called?
Red 2.
Who directed those films?
Oh boy, who's got their IMDb? I feel like I should. Isn't it the guy who did the Die Hard movies?
Yes, I think
Bruce Willis is the star. Yeah.
Oh, he is.
You should be in the next one. That would be you and Helen can battle it.
And I could wear her costumes. Would she be in it if I was in it?
Oh, I think she would have to.
Oh, I don't know what the plot is.
I don't think the Red movies are reliant on plots. It's a lot of shooting. I would love to see you in an action movie, actually.
I would be good.
Yeah. I mean, you're pretty badass.
It's kind of the real me.
Really?
Yeah.
More so?
Yeah.
I mean, you're actually pretty badass in Grandma, I have to say. Yeah. You had worked with Paul Weitz before on Admission. At what point did he say he was writing a movie for you?
He didn't say it till we finished Admission. And then we promoted it. Now it was out. So it was a fair amount of time. And he called me and said, "I've got an idea I want to talk to you about." And I thought he wanted me to take a trip to Palm Springs with him, just to try out the spa. But no, he had something artistic in mind. And he said, I've written this movie with you in mind. And then he presented me with the script in a few days. Wow. So it was a really lovely thing.
When a director, especially someone like Paul White, says something like that, I mean, is there any question you're going to do it?
No, it was, yes, if I hadn't liked it, I would have been in a hard spot. I really dreaded reading it because I thought, oh my goodness, what if I don't like it? But it was very, very exciting, very interesting, very offbeat. So I really liked it.
I know that I believe David O. Russell wrote the role for you in Huckabees, but did Robert Altman ever write roles for you, or any?
Not that I'm aware. Not that I'm aware, but and I got my first role in Altman's that was my first movie role, was in Nashville, and I got that quite by accident because we had the same agent, Bob and I, and Sam Cohn, who's now, they've both gone now. It's a big loss. And so, and Louise Fletcher was supposed to play my part.
Wow.
Yeah, and when she accepted the Oscar for Cuckoo's Nest, she signed because her parents are deaf. And so that's where the deaf children came from in Nashville. And I only sort of, and just she and her husband, he had produced with Altman Thieves Like Us, which was one of my favorite Altman movies. And so I suddenly kind of I saw Louise signing that night on the Oscars, and I just thought something wakened in me. And later she and I exchanged letters, and she told me she was supposed to play that role.
Wow. Did you have to audition for it? I mean, how did he even come to you?
How embarrassing. Audition? Why, Altman never heard the word audition, even in my case. So, no, I didn't have to audition. He called me up and he said, he had optioned a book that I had optioned that Jane, it was a book by Cynthia Buchanan that my partner Jane had written the screenplay for, called Maiden. And it was a book that came out in the early 70s, 71 I think. And I was already on Laugh-In, and I'd gotten quite famous from that show. And I thought I should be in the movies. I never thought I shouldn't be in anything. And I just thought I was an actor and a performer, and I could probably have a crack at anything. But it's just like not knowing about red. It's like I didn't understand about the business, about how things work and how people did not cross over from television to the movies in those days. Very unusual. Goldie Hawn from Laugh-In. I was on Laugh-In the day after she left, and Goldie had left to do Cactus Flower or something, hadn't she? Wasn't that it? And she was one of the very few people who ever crossed over from television like that. And of course now you find movie stars all over television, of course. So, forgot where I was going with the story. But,
how you met Altman.
Oh, Altman, yeah, so, well, I knew who Altman was, and I don't know that I'd ever really met him, I can't recall, but he called me, Sam called me and said, Bob wants to talk to you, and I got on the phone and he said, he wanted me to come to Nashville and play this role, and I said, okay, and I was a little bit nervous. I don't know what I was. I just went, and when I got there, I thought, there's like 25 actors in this movie, and I could have played 7 or 8 of these parts. And I really did think so until as I watched everybody coming in, I started thinking how right they were for their parts. And that's one thing I came to respect about Altman, was his sense of casting. The movie was like half made by the time he'd cast something. And so I realized that I had to be more like Linnea than I realized. And I was in a sense because, Linnea was a pretty straightforward, nice Southern woman, married to Ned Beatty, who was like a good old boy who wore white patent leather loafers and a white patent leather belt, and they went to like the Kiwanis Club or something. And they carried on and did, questionable things. And poor Gwen, what's Gwen's last name? They had her, she was so innocent, she's died now, but of course they didn't know that was going to happen at the time. But I'm recounting the story, I reflect on it just at this very moment. So, I went and so I took the part and I loved it. And my family's Southern. My mother and father both from Kentucky. So I knew how Southerners would react to this movie. And I said to Bob, almost every night we'd go and have dailies, I'd say, I hope we get out of town before people here see this movie. Because this was in the early 70s and I knew they would be very uptight and insulted, that they were being ridiculed in some way. And of course they weren't really, they were just Altman's sense of satire. He always had a little turn of something. And they were quite upset about the movie, because he had seduced all the civic leaders in Nashville to be in the movie.
Oh, wow. Did they know what the script was?
No, they just had a little isolated part, like they play a dignitary from the city, and like they bring in there's some baton twirlers for the big dame or something, and they'd all be out there marching and looking good, and they were afterwards they were a bit insulted. Now the newer generation embraces the movie.
Yeah.
They really like it, and they see they're willing to admit. I'm trying to choose the right word. They're trying to admit what's possibly not perfect.
Very well said. I'm curious because I just think it's such a beautiful bookend that 40 years later you get another role of a lifetime.
I know, it is.
And knowing that Elle was written for you, I'm sure, is she like you?
Yeah, sure, she's somewhat like me. I understand I'm of her age. I'm a feminist. I'm gay. I know a lot of stuff about her. That's my car that we drove.
I forgot about that.
That's my old Dodge.
Didn't you, am I allowed to say you had an accident in that car?
Oh yeah, that's terrible. Who told you about it?
You did!
Was it on the air?
I think it was.
Well. It wasn't an accident, it was a provoked, it was entirely the other person's lack of consciousness. And what it was, I had a camera thing on the car, coming off this side, the passenger side, and Julia, my granddaughter, was in the car, totally innocent. And I looked, and it was a two-way street. And let me think if it was a two-way street. First of all, I checked this side of the avenue. There was nobody there. And who's going to come? Someone's going to come running up on my right side and try to get in front of me? No, that's not going to happen. So as I pull away from the curb, I make sure this side is all clear. And I started out into traffic, and I hear Julia start screaming. And I turned around and some guy had backed out of a parking lot. You see how that would be? You see this, as soon as I left the parking lane, he backed up out of this parking lot that had become full. And so the arm of the car sliced the top of his car off. Wow! But he'd gotten out by this time. So I just thank my lucky stars that Altman was planning to shoot it. That's why it turned out so well.
Is that going to be on the blooper reel, like on the DVD?
No, I don't think so. I don't think there was any Well, it may be. The camera would have been shooting that. We might have gotten it.
And
I wonder.
Using your car was sort of out of necessity. I don't think people understand. Can you reveal the budget and shooting schedule?
Yeah, we shot for 19 days for under $600,000. And that's so funny because everyone applauds under $600,000. And I would have done the play by myself if
Yeah.
they would have paid me $600,000. Anyway, so because David O. Russell, I remember his student movie, which was Spanking the Monkey. He made that movie for like $80,000, and so $600,000 seemed like a lot of money, but it's really nothing for a movie.
In 19 days, I mean, were you
19
working
days.
nonstop?
Well, we were off on the weekends.
Well, this must, I mean, you're number one on the call sheet. You're in every scene.
Yeah.
Do you like working that way? And I imagine you didn't have trailers or...
No. No, we didn't.
So did you sort of guerrilla
We were
style
dressing in the
filmmaking?
streets. It was that's why I insisted on having one costume.
Smart. Because it is set in a day, so...
Yeah, right.
Did you like that,
Feeble.
like, that pace, though?
It just seemed pleasantly brisk. and you're just not overshooting. You're not shooting a lot of scenes. I hate to ignore all of you over here. Paul didn't shoot anything he didn't need. I mean, I bet it would be a few frames of film that would fall on the floor if he overshot it. And it was sort of blessed because we got such great people to be in it. The whole cast was just stellar. Marcia Gay, Sam Elliott, my grandmother Julia, everybody, Laverne Cox, John Cho, Judy Greer. There are just so many good people. Elizabeth Pena, who died since. We just had wonderful, wonderful people. Everybody who Paul would come and he'd say, I think Marcia Gay is going to do it. I'd say, no, you're kidding. Oh my God, this is too great. And she was just so, everybody was so good. And somehow it's what was written. Sam Elliott was fond of saying, if it's not on the page, it's not on the stage. And it was just like that scene with me and Sam was just so good. And he was so, it just happened.
And you'd never met before?
No, we'd met at the Emmys one year. He was fond of saying that we were both up for the same category, voiceover.
Yeah.
And I was up for a short that Jane, my partner, and I had produced about elephants in captivity. And he was up for Robot Chicken or something. So that was good.
And didn't you win?
I did win.
You beat him.
I had to build up his confidence after that.
I think of this movie being first and foremost about relationships, but obviously there's this storyline with a young woman getting an abortion. And like Elle, you've been a very vocal activist on social issues. I mean, was that part of the appeal of the story, or did you just, it was secondary to telling the story?
It was part of the appeal in the sense that it makes it current and about something, sort of about something, because that's not really the thrust of the movie, but yes, it was, could have been another issue, I suppose, but it was a good connection for me and my granddaughter, and that's more and more revealed as the story goes on.
And you and Julia have fantastic chemistry. I mean, you really feel like family.
Yeah.
Did that develop naturally?
I wore my hair a little straighter, but we had really curly hair, so, I mean, I knew secretly that we had really curly hair.
I mean, did you guys have time to rehearse or get to know each other?
No, we didn't really do much. We couldn't do much rehearsing.
Yeah.
There was no time for it. And also, I was her mentor. I was this old feminist with my feminist books and Betty Friedan's Weinstein and all that stuff. And I didn't like the way she was allowing herself to be at the effective sexist society. I wanted her to have more wherewithal to stand up for herself, and I tried to impart some of that to her, and she taught me stuff, and it was all about, it really is about the 3 generations of women, and how many people need to heal those relationships, and just discovering yourself.
Yeah, she's fantastic. Your daughter is fantastic. Your lover is fantastic. The cast just from top to bottom.
Yeah, they are so good. At least we should have gotten an ensemble nomination from the Golden Globes.
SAG does ensemble nominations. Golden Globes
Golden
doesn't.
Globe does. We got a Golden Globe nomination for Shortcuts.
Really? Maybe it was
Check out the old records.
Selling it on IMDb right now.
SAG, it was Golden Globes, I think.
Independent Spirit Awards too gives an ensemble nomination.
Well, we should have definitely have gotten 3 or 4.
That's
Although if I'd known earlier, I would have lobbied.
I want to take some questions from the audience if you have one. Just raise your hand. Let's start right down here.
What does your actual granddaughter think of the film?
Your actual granddaughter. What does she think of
Real
the
life
film?
granddaughter?
Yeah.
I don't have
Oh,
one.
when you said your granddaughter in the accident, that was the film.
Yeah, sorry. I wish I did have a granddaughter.
You'd make a good
So I
story.
could like teach them. I would love to have a granddaughter, damn it.
You're actually.
She wouldn't be such a small child now. She'd be well into legal age.
You're actually a newlywed, aren't you? You just got married like a couple years ago.
Jane and I got married a couple of years ago. We're not newly coupled. We were together 45 years. We got married kind of for the experimentation of it.
Is it different being married after 45 years?
Well, there's a kind of sweetness to it, I suppose, and it's also it's meaningful that you can talk about it. I mean, that certainly was not anything that anybody wanted to lead to in 45 years ago.
Was there a point? I mean, was there a point where you came out, or was it just?
Well, supposedly I came out in 2000, something like that, because I was doing an interview, and I'd done lots of interviews, and I always reference Jane and stuff like that, but I was doing an interview with Us Magazine, and they have much higher standards of journalism. And the fellow that was interviewing me wrote about something about me and Jane. I don't know what he said. And then the next day on what's it called?
Entertainment Tonight?
What?
Entertainment Tonight?
No, it's the one with Barbara Walters and the women.
2020. No, The View.
The View. Yeah, nothing so bona fide as 2020. It was The View, and we were Hot Topics.
Hot Topics.
We made Hot Topics.
Wow. Forget the Oscar nomination. That's when you know you're made.
And so it was really great because then I had just been on The View like a few days before that, and Barbara had said to me, "You've never gotten married, have you, Lily?" And I said, "No." And she says, "Never met the right guy?" And I said, "Barbara, you and I both know that's not the reason." Because I would tease journalists and people, and so. But they didn't show that clip on the show that day. I thought that would have been really good if they had, but they didn't. And so then anyway, that's how, I don't even remember what the evolution was. I mean, things come in such abundant number and variety that, when you're like me, a person of my age, at my stage of the career, you just don't remember everything.
Everybody that is part of the Grandma Gang rounds up all their friends and goes out and sees it and supports it and comes to all the screenings. So we're all here for you today. Just wanted you to know that.
Well, thank you. I think you should put one structure.
Signs?
Oh, that's awfully good. Now that you, what's that?
Mom made
Karen made them. Oh, Karen. Yeah, Karen. Well, I think you should have to, like, the only people you can round up is like your grandma. What's that?
There's grandmas all over the country that are part of it, that go, like in Arizona.
Is there a chapter there?
Do you have a website where
Oh,
people...
there's a Facebook page.
Facebook page, yeah. Because my dad really wants to be a member of this. No joke, he loves this
I will
movie.
sign you up and then you can sign me.
Thank you.
I don't think you're signed up yet.
I'm not, but I'll get my dad on it. He'll have to join Facebook though. See it, hand over there.
How much of the film is ad-libbed on?
Thank you.
Oh, good question. How much of the film is ad-libbed, or is there any improv?
No, there's not a, we didn't, I mean, I ad-libbed a lot of the cursing. Having to curse so, you know, vehemently and frequently, you don't want to have to memorize. Because you're going to change it somewhere in the middle. You're going to be visited by the cursing fairy or something. And so I mostly sort of ad-libbed the cursing. And you know, it's hard to be really, I mean, that's a sign of high intelligence, is to be really, really inventive in a cursing mode. Because most people fall back on 2 or 3 expletives. And as you can see, that's what I did. But mostly, no, we mostly did not improv or anything. I mean, maybe in an action thing we might have had to like go, or something, but we didn't really do too much of it. It's Paul's script.
It's a great script, actually. Yes.
So for your last Oscar nomination, you were a tiara.
No, I didn't. I wasn't. Oh yeah, I was nominated. You're right. Yeah. Okay, so go on.
From the Philippines to give you that crown from Miss Universe.
He wants to give you the crown from Miss Universe to wear to the Oscars this
He
year.
brought it this year.
No, he's just suggesting you should borrow it. From
Oh, I
Miss
should. Yeah. Do you know her? Oh God, you're so good. You remember I wore the tiara, and you know the next morning, I tried to dress like a '50s movie star because that's what my experience was from Detroit, was watching the Oscars in the '50s, sort of. And so I had gone over to NBC's costume shop, and I'd gotten a silver crocheted dress with huge paillettes on it, you know, and I padded my body. Because I'm really, very slender, and drunk, and so I don't have like a big curvaceous body. Like my model was Gina Lollobrigida, and then I had the chair, and I had these big white fox furs. They were kind of moth-eaten. I bought them at a thrift shop years before. And I had gloves on and big earrings, rhinestones, and I went as a 50s movie star. And I had big rhinestone harlequin glasses on. And I did it to amuse Bob Altman too, because I knew that was the year of what's the name of that movie? Of Nashville. So, and the next morning, and sometime during the broadcast, if you ever see it, my tiara kind of gets tipped, you know? Because we're there for hours, just hours. It's unbearable in a way. And so, the next morning, Mr. Blackwell goes on A Morning America.
That guy.
And he's talking about everybody's costume, and he leans forward into the camera and he says, "And Lily Tomlin, we do not wear tiaras." That was really great. That's the kind of thing you live for. As a performer, you really do. That's when you have fun with the culture, you know.
So another hand back there? Sure.
Yeah, hi, Ms. Tomlin, huge fan. Since Laughing, Nashville, Signs of Intelligent Life on the Universe. I mean, I'm just like, you're absolutely one of my favorites.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad you have such a range of appreciation.
Sandra's writing is genius.
Oh, Jane, oh,
It served you both really well.
thank you.
But my question is this. Now, when you came to work with Woody Allen, when you did Shadows and Fog with Jodie Foster, and I forget who else it was.
Kathy Bates.
Yeah, Kathy Bates. What was the process that went into that? Because you were all prostitutes, and you and Jodie, I know, are gay. So it was like, I always kind of wondered if there was a process that went into that whole thing.
You don't have to be one to play one. And the best part about being in a Woody film is he never speaks to you. And then he had Kathy and Jodie and me come back from New York, where were we? Where did we shoot that movie? Oh, in New York. He had us come back from California to New York 3 or 4 times. They paid the airfare and everything, hotel, and all we get there and all he'd done was change his own lines. It was something, and the most horrible part was, I'm not even gonna bring it up.
You can't tease us like
No, it
that.
has to do with like him and Mia breaking up and all that stuff. And me coming back and like telling everybody, oh, they're just so darling together. They're just so sweet. They hold hands walking to and from the set, and I'm just ecstatic about their relationship. And then about 24 hours later, the truth was a whole bunch of stuff happened.
I didn't realize it was on that movie.
What?
While you were shooting Shadows and Fog?
No, it's afterwards.
Oh, it was afterwards. Oh, okay. I think we have time for
No, it was the hand holding was during the shoot.
Right there?
I really enjoyed the movie, and I was wondering, I know sometimes when they do film a movie, they don't do it in sequence, but this one seems so logical that it was filmed.
It was pretty much in order. It was because he, Paul had devised the license of breaking it into segments that were like the headings on a poetry book or something. And so we pretty much shot it in sequence. There might have been a little exception here and there, but I don't really recall too much.
Have you ever shot that way before, or was that new to you?
No, we shot, with Altman, we shot Nashville pretty much in order. And then every night we'd go, we were all captive there in Nashville, and he would, watch the dailies every day, every evening. That was great fun. I mean, that was a wonderful experience for our first movie.
Mm-hmm.
Just glorious.
So again, you kind of come full circle. You're shooting in sequence, working in a role you didn't have to audition for.
Yeah, a movie that we didn't have any trailers.
I mean, in all of you've done every medium and so many different roles. What's been the most challenging role you've ever had to play?
I would still say The Search in the theater. That was physically demanding, but once you're in condition, it's quite easy to do. But it meant so much to me because it was Jane's play, and I wanted it to be just glorious. And every night I felt that. I felt the rush that you get from The Search. Many people do. I won't say everybody, but it's got the greatest curtain line in the world. It takes a preamble to make you understand, but like the bag lady in The Search, Trudy, is trying to teach her space chums the difference between how wacky humans are. And she's saying, like, for instance, she goes and digs in her shopping cart, and she says, this is a can of tomato soup. And this is a picture of Andy Warhol's painting of a can of Campbell's tomato soup. And then she switches them behind her back, and she says, now what was this? No, this is soup. And this is art. That's what it is. This is soup and this is art. And all through the play, she's trying to teach them what the difference is between soup and art. And then at the very end, when the space chums are they're searching for signs of intelligent life, so they're looking for something that, what is it about humans? And they say to her, what is it like to have goosebumps? Because they've never had goosebumps. And Trudy decides to take them to a play. And so ostensibly she's taking them to see The Search. And the audience becomes a character in the play. And she's saying, there we were standing at the back of the theater, blah, I can't remember, blah, blah, blah. And she says, suddenly one of them tugs my sleeve. He says, Trudy, look. I said, yeah, goosebumps. You really like the play that much? They say something like, I forgot to tell them to watch the play. They've been watching the audience. Yeah, to see a group of strangers sitting together in the dark, laughing and crying about the same things, just knocked them out. They said to me, Trudy, the play was soup. The audience art. And it's just such a great curtain line. And then Trudy turns and goes upstage and she disappears into a fantastic star curtain.
I don't think I'm going to be able to top that.
I don't think I can either.
So I just want to say thank you so much for being here. We will be rooting for you and watching you change clothes next week.
Okay.
Congratulations on another remarkable movie, and thank you guys for being a great
Thank
audience.
you.